to Contemporary Black Voices, and this is our Hot Topic segment. And my name is Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell, one of your hosts. Today, sitting with me, we have Caleb Alexander, as well as Mario Salas. Chris Dawkins, we miss you, and we'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks. Have fun in Costa Rica. So we've got 4 topics that we're going to talk about. The first one being about the Voting Rights Act at risk even after its 60th anniversary. The next one we're going to talk about is the abuse of the abuse of power related to the National Guard. We're also going to look at why the Black community should be interested in the Epstein files. And finally, we're going to talk about RFK and how he is using, I'm going to say, conspiratory racism concerning Black people. So our first thing we want to talk about is the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act and where we are today. Have you been keeping track of this, Mario?
Yeah.
You want to kind of give us some background?
Well, I'll give you some background. There are 2 Civil Rights Act. One has to do with facilities. That was 64. Has to do with segregation at the movie theater and the library, et cetera, et cetera. Then the 65 one comes along, which deals with getting rid of several prohibitory measures that took place during the Jim Crow era. And well, even before that, where you had to pay to vote, you had a poll tax to pay to vote, and that actually had to be taken care of by an amendment. But poll tax to get taken care of, people being prevented from voting. And you have to talk about the methods by which they proceeded to prevent Black people from voting. And I always like list them in maybe the order in which way they were done. And it depends on what state and area, et cetera, et cetera. For example, most of the southern slave-owning states had grandfather clauses, but Texas didn't. But Texas did have a literacy test. Texas did have a poll tax. Texas did, I'll get to that one in just a second. The poll tax was often done, literacy test, we had to pay. And of course, if you just got out of slavery, where were you going to get $1 from? $1 worth a whole lot of money back those days. You don't have $1. And so look, let's just hypothetically, let's pretend like we're, I don't know, former Confederate soldiers. And we work at the courthouse and we're seeing people coming in to vote. And the first person that comes in to vote is a Black guy. So what are we going to ask him? In the state of Georgia, you have to pass a literacy test, mister. Oh, and if you don't like it, maybe you should get a hold of your friend Abraham Lincoln. Oh, I forgot, we took care of him. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of language they would talk to you with. Mm-hmm. But you have to read this in order to be able to vote. And what they would do was pick a medical book from which you had to read. The poor whites who would come in, they would pick Jane Ran Up the Hill, an elementary school book. Hey, could read that. Now let's just suppose that Black man could read for whatever reasons. He snuck around, somebody taught him to read when slave owners weren't looking, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I can read that. He started reading it. He passed it. Maybe the sheriff or whoever was doing the voting said, and would do this. Hey, deputy, do you believe this? He used the N-word. You believe this N-word can read? Oh, man, that's unbelievable. Well, let's see. You got $1? Hold on. Yeah, I got $1. He got $1 too, deputy said. And he stole it. So they're trying everything in the world to keep him from voting. So then, literacy test, needs $1. Then if all else fails, maybe some other little things he might try, they would do this. It depends on what state, what area, et cetera. But generally, if they had to, they resort to this last one. Didn't I see you walking down the street the other day? Because especially in a small rural town. Mm-hmm. I thought I saw you walking down the street the other day. You were coming from Mr. Wilson's grocery store. I wonder, does he know you? You work over there, don't you? I wonder, does he know you trying to vote over here? Maybe I should tell him. And funny thing, when you were walking down the street, coming out of his store, you had 2 pretty little black kids with you. Those your daughters? And then he would say, they sure look healthy today. You sure you want to vote? That's a death threat. I'm going to kill your family. And so what might that black guy do? Well, if he didn't have a family or didn't work for a white man, he might, he might pull out a gun and shoot one of them. But in general, what person would want to sacrifice his family to vote? He was totally intimidated. I don't want my kids dead. Forget it. I'm sorry, sir, and leave. So they got rid of that voter. So after many, many years, of course, by the time Martin Luther King comes along, he's still having to fight this. When it was started off in 1866, 1867, roughly, when slaves were supposedly freed, not really, but supposedly freed, Martin Luther King still had to deal with that all the way back from then, all the way up to the 1950s. So finally, and I just hate to see that picture where they're signing the Voting Rights Act with, who is that, Lyndon Johnson, sitting there, and he's signing the thing, and nothing but white folks standing around him. And it almost like they're pushing Martin Luther King out of the picture. You know, this is our bill, this is the president's doing it. Trying to take away the credit from it was King that pressured this white president. Now, let me tell you, Kennedy, the same thing. Lincoln, the same thing. If you didn't pressure that's why I don't honor them. You can't put Kennedy, John F., you can't put him in the same boat as Martin Luther King, and people do that all the time. You shouldn't do that. It's a mistake. That's like putting the Klan in the same boat as Malcolm X or something. That's crazy. Kennedy was not supportive initially of the Civil Rights Act, and neither was Lyndon B. Johnson. But when it became popular, politically popular to do, all people should vote, they started doing that kind of stuff, typical of a racist.
So, it's, considering what you said and where we are today, down in Louisiana, this is Louisiana versus Calais, I think that's how you mentioned it, and it's before the Supreme Court. But Attorney General Liz Murrell, well, the question becomes whether or not a district can be separated, redistrict, and we know that's a word we all been hearing about, to where, in essence, black people have a fair chance of voting for people who can represent them. And so the Attorney General, Liz Murrell of Louisiana, said it was unconstitutional to redistrict areas based on race. And so now we're going to the Supreme Court. Now, interesting enough, this has been a case that Clarence Thomas has been pushing for, where he was saying that based on the 14th Amendment, dividing areas up based on race is unconstitutional. He wants the Supreme Court to vote his way. So we're already seeing this in Texas, right? And in fact, there's Abbott is being sued now on how they handle this redistrict situation. So if the Supreme Court agrees to the argument that redistricting based on race is unconstitutional, which would basically wipe out the 14th and 15th Amendments, okay? Houston, we got a situation.
Well, it was all, Caleb and Sharon, it was always based on race. It was always to prevent black people from voting. And when black people got woke and realized they were being discriminated against, Martin Luther King and a bunch of other people over time fought for that right to get a representative from the area in which they dominated, population-wise. So now they have found a way to, or tried to find a way to take it away by claiming the reverse of what it was originally district to be done in the first place. So you're trying to discriminate against white people. That's what they're saying in a roundabout way. You're basing this district lines on race. Yeah, because it was always based on race that supported white folk.
Right. So, my question is, so is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because it prevents them from doing a district that's 51% white people, 49% black folks. You know what I mean? And so it kind of, because that's what they're doing. They're carving up the districts to put black folks in the minority. And so my question is this will this allow us to now, if we can't redistrict based on race, can we now concentrate our political power? Can we now have more, more representation or assured representation in communities that are predominantly of color, instead of allowing them to, carve us up 51, 40, 49 districts, you know what I mean? And so it's just, to me, it's like, let's see where this is going.
Well, and you know what? Look at all the things they tried to do before that. Like somebody can't give you a bottle of water while you're standing in line to vote.
Yeah.
They tried, that didn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, in San Antonio, you know what they did right here, down the street at the Claude Black Center? They paved the parking lot on the day of the election. You couldn't get in the parking lot. And look, you couldn't park your car there. And people who are old in wheelchairs and stuff had to park a block away and be rolled over. So
I didn't know about that.
They did that here. As a matter of fact, the civil rights group in San Antonio filed a suit or a complaint with the elections headquarters, San Antonio Bexar County elections headquarters. Why did you all schedule black copying the parking lot on the day of the election? So that's another little trick. All kinds of little tricks. The threat of violence didn't stop Martin Luther King and them. Well, go ahead and shoot me. I'm here to vote. And because people are brave. They're going to fight for their freedom. And the poll tax got eliminated. So what's left, Darren? What's left? Let's manipulate the law.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next topic. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Heaven protect us. That's all I can say. But he has this, again, I call it conspiratory racism. People call it scientific racism. But he has something to say about Black folks. RFK has made scientifically unsupported claims suggesting that Black people should follow a different vaccine schedule because their immune systems are stronger than white people's. And so this echoes a long debunked racist medical trope that falsely portrayed Black people's bodies as biologically different or less vulnerable to diseases. And so experts call this scientific racism, warning that it could lead to dangerous health disparities. Now, it's not unknown that Black folks feel a certain way about the medical profession anyway. And we tend to proceed with caution. But when you have Robert F. Kennedy on TV spouting off false information and misinformation, depending on how it is received by the hearer, may be reason enough for them to make decisions based on that, what they're hearing, which could be deadly. So, Caleb, I'm going to jump on you. What are your thoughts on this? I mentioned this to you.
No, I mean, yeah, it's always been it's historically that Black people, even enslaved people, were sturdier and hardier and better built to work in the sun than Native Americans. So there's always been that racist trope. And you see it that throughout the generations, Black women didn't need painkillers or any kind of medication. They didn't need them during birth. Black folks didn't need it during surgery. Just that we, even when they were damaging and intentionally scarring our bodies, they didn't apply medication because they felt we didn't need it, just the way we heal. But you see this all throughout the medical profession. There's a racial adjustment when it comes to tests, lung tests, kidney tests. And they adjust downward for Black folks so that our diagnosis comes a lot later. And so our chances at improving our outcomes are worse. These tests allow white people to get treatment earlier, and it delays our treatment. So you see those instances that are still prevalent in the medical profession. It's always been that way throughout history. Those are my thoughts.
I did a presentation for the San Antonio Metropolitan Health Board about that very subject. And it was interesting because right before I got up to speak, several medical doctors got up and said, I'm still hearing, and this is 2023, I'm still hearing medical students say black people can take more pain than whites. And he said, I have to keep correcting these students. They're saying that now in 2025.
Yeah.
And, I'm just wondering what was in JFK Jr.'s heroin that I'd like to talk to. Who was he buying the heroin from? I'd like to talk to the pusher man because maybe he was slipping some more poison in that.
40 years worth of heroin.
How many?
Was it 40 or 50 years?
I don't know.
He shot up for 40 or 50 years. He shot up heroin. So, but he don't want you to get vaccine.
Well, this topic is really sensitive in that everybody in this room, we have loved ones who go to hospitals. My sister and I, our mother, she'll be 92 next month, has been in the hospital, in and out of the hospital. But it wasn't until recently that suspicions that the nursing staff was not paying attention to her nerve levels. I mean, not her nerve, but her pain levels. So we are going to have to really rethink how we hover over our loved ones, especially in hospitals, because you're saying we have medical doctors coming out right now believing that we can take the pain. We're seeing evidence that our loved ones aren't being asked about their pain levels. So, and now we got this non-doctor running the CDC who is spouting off these conspiracy theories about Black folks. We just need to be aware. We need to be aware and be in position ourselves to where if we have loved ones going to the doctors, we have loved ones being admitted into hospital, we need to set up surveillance systems to where they're
if I could, let me throw a cultural aspect into that conversation. No one likes to feel like you've gotten over them. No one likes to feel that I'm going to let this disease or sickness or pain conquer me, especially guys. Guys are like, a guy that cut himself, blood be all over him. Just give me a Band-Aid. That's the way guys are. Yeah. We play down the pain. Might be hurting really bad, but we're going to play it down because it's supposedly a manly thing. And so there's a cultural aspect there. And because blacks have been treated so badly over the centuries, that it was, a lot of time it was like, I'm not going to show this white man that I'm in pain because I'm more of a man than he is. So there is a cultural dimension to that. Yeah. Especially with the male figures. But I'm always cutting my hands working out in the yard, blood running out. I don't pay any attention. I look at it, it's a small cut, so what? But somebody else would come along, oh my God, you're bleeding. Come on, man, it's a little old minor cut.
Go to the doctor, Bob.
Yeah. Don't call the doctor.
So we have,
but one more.
We have to be aware.
Yeah, that too, but with combination of what you guys said. So, well, first point, we did the human genome mapping. There is no difference. You cannot tell based at the cellular level the difference between a black person and a white person. What by a genome, right?
By genetics, no.
By genetics, there's no difference, right?
Cellular level.
Right, on a cellular level. The other point I wanted to make that kind of combines your point is about, so I have a sister who was born in 1978, right? This was during the time, you may remember, it was Janine Jones, Nurse Phillips. So my sister was born, she had cerebral palsy and spina bifida and cirrhosis. But my family was fortunate enough to always be at the doctor. This was during a time when they were doing what they call mercy killings because they felt like the families could not afford to take care of these, the babies who had these conditions. So just in combination about being vigilant, and about watching your loved ones. And so we saw this occur during the Nurse Phillips and the Janine Jones trial where they were doing these killings because they felt like black families couldn't afford to take care of their loved ones or that they weren't always present at the medical facility. So they felt like they could abuse folks' loved ones, So yeah, we definitely, in the medical profession, there's always been racism and bias. And so we definitely need to be vigilant. If we have loved ones that are going through those kind of situations that are in the hospital, we definitely need to do whatever we can to make sure that someone visits them, that they're present, and let these folks know that they have support.
Okay. Next topic, the abuse of the National Guard. And veterans are really, really hot. That, when the National Guard in D.C., what were they doing? Laying mulch, laying out mulch.
That's a good idea.
But the biggest abuse is that these young men and women are out there, and what Trump is doing is he only deploys them for 29 days, okay, then undeploy them, and then redeploy them for 29 days, unemploy them, and then do this.
Right.
And the purpose for doing that is to not pay them. To not pay them, especially give them their basic housing allowance. So they're just being disabused. And California, Gavin Newsom, and another state has filed a lawsuit to where Trump just can't be dropping these people in LA for whatever reason. What are they going to do? Help clean up the fire, fire damages? We don't know, but our National Guard is being abused.
You know what, Sharon? Also, in some cities, maybe I'm thinking of Chicago, but the mayor of Chicago and police chiefs in different cities have literally said, "We're telling our police officers if the guard says we're arresting this person, someone, well, that's your problem. You take him to jail. We're not helping you."
Yeah.
And so they're fighting back by saying we're not going to cooperate with the National Guard.
Right.
And you can't make them do that, by the way.
Right.
You can't make them do. I don't care if he nationalized them or not. You can't make them assist you in an arrest if they decide they're not going to do it.
Right.
So that puts, and I feel sorry for the National Guard guy because they don't know, they're quote following orders, but that gets you in trouble though. You shouldn't be following an illegal order, number one. But so they are fighting back. I know our sheriff Salazar has often said he's going to tell his deputies, it's not our job to arrest so-called illegal aliens.
Right.
That's the immigration's job.
Right.
My
thing is, I think these people are going to learn a history lesson. They learn, a few different countries have learned this history lesson, but the idea that someone who's been activated and he's left his civilian job and he's left his family and he's going to turn around and put on a uniform and then turn around and turn his gun on his family, I think they're gonna learn a hard lesson about that.
And Sharon, you're right about some of the soldiers are getting pretty upset about all this.
Mm-hmm. So we got a few minutes left, and I want to go ahead and talk about the Epstein files and why the Black community needs to be really honing in on this. First of all, I don't know if everybody has seen it, but one of the survivors was a woman of color. Now I'm saying woman of color because I don't know whether she's African American, Black American. She could be
Costa
Rican. So I'm gonna say a woman of color.
Yeah, there you
go. But why these files should trigger us in that, let's give some stats. Black women, approximately 40% of sex trafficking victims in the United States are Black women. And this is disproportionately high, considering Black women make up about 7% of the U.S. population. Black children, a staggering 57.5% of juvenile prostitution arrests involve Black children. So this suggests not only high vulnerability, but also criminal justice response that often punishes rather than protects trafficked youth. And then finally, Black men. Data on Black men victims is far more limited. White men and boys are trafficked, especially for labor and sometimes sex. Their experiences are underreported and under-researched, but cultural stigma and lack of institutional recognition contributes to this invisibility. We've all had family members where we suspected something's going on, but nobody wants to talk about it. Yeah. We've all had this is, I'm gonna say back in the day, when the Black families and the communities were tighter, you don't want to go down to Mr. Solace's house You know, if you pass it, you pass his house, go to the other side of the house,
Yeah.
the highway.
Mhm.
No one ever said what Mr. Salas was doing. But, you know, but if you really think about it, the neighbors knew what was going on, but they talked about it differently. I just think that as a Black community, we need to open up and talk about sex trafficking more, because there's the numbers, especially for women and girls, it's high. Women and children, it's high. And we have a lot of missing
Exactly.
Black women, children, and men.
Well, and you know, what's come out, which has been going on all along, is the wealthy are the ones doing this pedophilia stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at the geography too. It wasn't Epstein in Palm Beach, in Florida,
Between
and
there
right
and
down the road
islands
in
and- yeah.
Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. Well,
So, you know, I just wanted to bring the topic up because it's
Right.
something that we don't talk about.
Right.
You know, well, we talked about it because of P. Diddy, right? And I still wonder whether there was trafficking involved or not. You know, I don't know about that one, you know, but still,
yeah.
we don't talk about it. We don't make it part of our reality that something amiss is going
Good
on.
point. Good point.
So,
And then, and the other thing is too, you know, like the statistics on young girls and young Black kids. Don't let them tell you no, and don't let them brush you off. If you know that your kid, the pattern doesn't fit, and they're missing, don't let them tell you to wait. Don't let them tell you that they might be at a friend's house. Don't let them tell you that, you know, this is normal, because a lot of times they dismiss our kids. You know what I mean? To them, in their eyes, our kids have no value, or that because of your whatever, your any kind of circumstances, or the kid, that's the first thing. Well, the kid may have ran away, or the kid may have did this. You know, well, you know your child. And if that's not your child, don't let them tell you no. And if you have to call a supervisor or go over their head or go over whoever head you need to go over to you know, to get these people, get a fire lit and get them to investigating, because time is critical. You know what I mean? The first, you know, first few hours when you know your child's supposed to be somewhere and they aren't, it's critical. So don't let these people dismiss you or tell you no because of.
I had to do that. I had to do that with my daughter. I went and got my gun and went and go looking for him myself.
Yeah.
all I can say is this, and we're about to wrap it up. Parents, keep your babies off of Facebook. You know, we don't need to see pictures of them every other day, because somebody is looking at those pictures, and it may be somebody that you don't want to see your baby's pictures. Before we finish, we want to thank Carl Booker for producing this show. We want to thank you for listening in. Please put your comments, please subscribe, please share our video. And with that being said, this is Contemporary Black Voices, where we tell our stories our way.